and praise God. My name is Evangelist Jason. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Wellness with Shii. Today's episode here at Baraka TV is all about dealing with your emotions and what emotions are. To start us off, I would want to read a verse in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26. A verse that I love and I like going back to it anytime I feel upset. And it says, "Be angry, but sin not. Do not let the sun go down in your anger," which would simply mean that anger is a normal human emotion. It's an okay emotion by itself, but it is what you do with it, what you do when you're angry, that determines whether it's good or bad. Because good anger can make you change. You can be angry at a situation and decide you're going to do something about it. You can be angry about a situation and decide you're going to go and destroy everything, and that kind of anger can get you into trouble. That's why the Bible would say, "Be angry but sin not." All right, so what is an emotion? In simple words, it would come to say that an emotion is a feeling such as happiness, love, fear, anger, hatred, all these emotions which are caused by either a situation or by people, which would then come to tell us or show that an emotion can be triggered by either a situation or people. Right, so we go deeper. There was a research by a couple of doctors in 1974, which brought about a connection between your brain behavior and your immune system. And that would mean your emotions are very important in handling your immunity, your personal immunity, which would show when you're stressed up, you easily get sick. And if you're happy, you're able to live a healthier life. And that is why this episode on wellness is all about how to better manage your emotions for healthy living, for wholeness, for the wholeness of your mind, body, and soul. All right, so this research showed, by when they were treating some lab rats, that when they worked about with your no, I don't want to go that way. Cat, you see, okay. uh-huh. Oh yes, the research showed that there is communication between your body, mind, and emotions. So, and because they are intertwined, it showed that if you handle your emotions well, if you're able to manage your emotions, you're able to keep yourself at a stable place emotionally, then you become less sick. Or if you are sick, you'd recover faster. And so this then I came about a story I had quite some time back. It was about a gentleman that was sick way in the early 1900s. And this gentleman, when he was sick, he had gone to the hospital and been diagnosed, I think, with cancer or one of those terminal illness, and he had been given a month or so to live. So with this at the back of his mind, he's like, okay, you have nothing to lose. So the doctor discharged him and he was taken home. So he told his son to bring him some movies from a guy called Charlie Chaplin. He was an English comedian or something like that. So when he was brought for these movies, he watched them back to back, and all people would hear him laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. He did this for a period of 6 months. And because of his laughing, remember, he had been given a month to live. So by the time he's stopping, people are realizing that he's still around. This was 6 months later. When they did, then he went back to the doctors, and the doctors did a test, and the man was totally healed. He was whole. So I simply like saying he laughed his way into wholeness. uh, so that brings in back us back to this connection of your emotions and your health. Then another story is told of a man who worked at a slaughterhouse. And these big slaughterhouses where they have rooms that are freezers. In one of those days when he was working in the night shift, he accidentally locked himself in one of the freezers. When the guys that were coming in the morning shift found this guy dead. When they checked his vitals, they say, "Oh, this guy froze to death." But can you imagine, that freezer was not on. Those things the well, do you want to call them the conditions or whatever, those things they put the thing on were not on. How then did this guy die of freezing in a room where the freezer was not on? All in here. So what happened is that he got into the room, and when he locked himself in, or discovered he was locked in, fear kicked in. And when fear kicked in, his emotions played him, and he imagined he was freezing, and he froze to death. That tells you how powerful our emotions are. The same thing is, something else that maybe say for people who love watching movies. You've watched these thriller or horror movie, and coincidentally, like most of us, you watch it late at night. When you sit there watching it late at night, and say the movie is over, or in one of the scenes in the movie, something falls in the kitchen like a sufuria. Oh my god, the panic that hits you. And this is all about your emotions playing around with it. So you move from the scene of the movie that you are watching, and in reality, in your mind, the trigger that is triggered is whatever is happening in the movie is about to happen in your house. Or leave the movie scene aside. Say you're asleep late at night, and you hear some sudden movement, or just something. Yes, you are asleep, but as you are asleep, your mind, when you hear that noise, the first register that goes in is that emotion of fear. So fear is triggered. Yes, fear is triggered, and when it's triggered, your imagination goes all over the place, and you're like, oh my god, there are thugs in the house. Then before you slowly maybe try to, then your mind goes to try to register what that noise is. Then you're like, oh no, that's a cup that fell, and your emotions, you calm down. So this episode is all about trying to be better managers of our emotions, and so that we are not played by our own emotions. So keep right here. hmm So as I said, remember me mentioning about emotional trigger. So what is an emotional trigger? An emotional trigger is a response to a person, situation, event, dialogue, reading, or film. Remember my many examples on films, or other contents that provoke a strong emotional reaction. Often we are not aware of it. It is just subconsciously. It's just you just respond. If someone, say someone walked behind you, and you weren't in, and they did a sudden movement, you would, your body just reacts without really you having to think about it. So that is what a trigger means. It just happens. You don't have that control. It just happens. And all this happens in a part of our brain that is called amygdala, with some a name like that. You can look it up. And this is a region of our brain that generally associates the emotional processes that sigue yo. So an emotional trigger is a response. An emotional trigger is a response to a person. No. Now remember, we mentioned I mentioned emotional triggers earlier on when I was explaining what emotions are. So here we just want to find out what is an emotional trigger. An emotional trigger is simply a response to a person, situation, event, dialogue. You can have you can be talking to a person, and they say something, and it makes you happy, or they say something, it makes you sad, or they say something and it upsets you. So that is to mean a dialogue can be a trigger. Or reading something, you can be reading something, and the emotions that are in the pages of the book that you're reading trigger something in you, and you connect with the reader, or you connect with the poem, or you connect with that novel that you're reading. You feel the emotions of the characters that are being talked about in the book. Or a film, the example that I was given, you're watching a horror movie, and the movie is going on, or you're asleep, and the scenes in the movie begin to play in your mind, and you almost want to imagine that that person that was doing that stuff in the movie is in your house, or something like that. So all this provoke a strong emotional reaction. Okay. Often we are not aware of this. You're not aware of it. It just happens, and you just find yourself in it. Like, so you've seen people who are watching a movie, and suddenly they begin to cry, and it's not something, it just happens. And I know so many of us, I'm a victim of it, watching emotional movies, and I find myself crying because I'm so connected, I'm so invested in the scene and whatever is happening. That is emotional. All this happens in the part of our brain that we call amygdala. So this is a region primarily associated with emotional processes. Amygdala, catch that word. uh-huh. It's like our system. It's the human being's alarm system. It's our alarm system. The amygdala is our alarm system as human beings in that part of our brain. Uh-huh. Pole sana Frank, utafanya job. Mhm. Here, maybe I want to mention a few of the common emotional triggers. Um, Even you'll just flow with it. It's very easy. It's nothing complicated. Is that necessary? So some common emotional triggers. Yes. Some common emotional triggers. One is someone rejecting you, someone leaving you, or a threat they will. All those things trigger some sort of emotions. Oh man.